Welcome back, everybody. This is Strictly Strings, page 31. Pretty sure you were searching YouTube for Baby Shark, but you stumbled on this. Well, congratulations. You're in luck, because we're going to be doing two different pieces here. This is Bach Musette and William Tell Overture. What I'm going to do is just review all the different things you have to pay attention to, and then I'll play through the piano part so you have something to play along with. You ready? Okay, let's look at Bach Musette. First of all, you have sort of a reminder that sometimes when we make arrangements of music, you have multiple parts: violin A, violin B, viola A, viola B. When you're reading a piece of music like this, it's important to make sure you're going to the correct line. So the first thing you want to do is find all the violin A lines, if that's the part you're playing, or all the violin B lines, if that's the part you're playing. Once you've figured out where your eyes have to go to be able to play this music from start to finish, then we have to start looking for other things on the map that are going to impact where we go. Well, right off the bat, in measure 4, we see a first ending, which means we're going to use those 4 notes and repeat back to the beginning. Second time through, remember, you jump over that first ending and go to the second ending, which leads you to measure 6. Now, at measure 6, you also have a repeat sign because, again, you have a first ending and a second ending. You need to get your eyes used to jumping back and forth from measure 6, 7, 8, 9 back to 6, and then 6, 7 jump up and over to the second ending. Really important to know our maps. What do you know? Measure 12 to the end, another first and second ending. So if you weren't very comfortable with your eyes jumping back and forth, this is a great piece for you to practice because your eyes will get more comfortable finding where repeat signs are in relation to first and second endings. Now let's look at some of the musical things that you have to figure out. Well, every time you have a new idea, measure 1, measure 6, or measure 12, you have the letter F, and then you have a dash, and you have the letter P, which means that the first time you're going to play forte, and the second time you're going to do an echo or play piano. That's a very classic sort of interpretation. Anytime you repeat music, you try to do something musically different. That's not 100% of the time. It's sometimes, and for this particular piece, it's what they're asking you to do. Then if you look through your part, you're also going to see some of the things that you've learned about articulation. You'll see accents. That's the letter V that's on its side attached to the note head. You'll also see staccato dots. You'll see that throughout, and that's a reminder that on certain notes you're going to have to put extra emphasis, extra energy on those accents to make them slightly louder than the other notes, and then the staccato dots are referencing making sure that there's some lightness or some space or some separation in between those quarter notes. There are bowings throughout, including multiple lifts, and it's important to have those lifts because down bows by default sound different than up bows. Of course, you can make them sound the same, but if you're just going to take a down bow and put all the same variables of weight and speed to an up bow, a down bow is going to be a little bit heavier because the frog is heavier than the tip. And if it's a little bit heavier just as its natural state, it's going to be a little bit louder, a little bit more aggressive, maybe a little bit more crunchy, a little bit more direct. Has all of those sort of characteristics potentially and as sort of its default setting. So making sure that we follow all the bowings, starting down bow at the very beginning, noticing the lift after the second ending, so we start down bow again at rehearsal 6. Not only does it make different sounds, but it's normal to start a strong beat on a down bow. And a strong beat is beat 1. That's the first beat of any measure, and it's typically the strongest introduction of the theme, usually. So down bows are often associated with the beginning of every measure. You'll notice at the end of the next second ending, another lift, so you can start down bow at measure 12. And then they wanted to remind you at the very end of the piece not to do 3 down bows and have a big sort of aggressive down, 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 but 3 delicate ending notes down, up, down. Last thing to look at as far as technique, you've got a few 4th fingers for the violins and the violas. Always encourage that as a sound, as opposed to the open A string if you're trying to change the color, but really they're also just trying to make sure that you keep exercising that muscle that it takes for playing the 4th finger A as opposed to the open A string. May as well learn it now. You're going to use it in the future. For the cellists and the bassists, there is shifting opportunities throughout. Every time you see that dashed line, it's a reminder you're going from one position to the other. So I would recommend that you go through all of those parts individually and that you figure out exactly what it is that you need to work on. Maybe it's clapping the rhythms, maybe it's saying the notes, maybe it's practicing your staccato bow stroke, maybe it's just bouncing back and forth with the first and second ending, making sure your eyes are comfortable. Maybe it's playing your 4th finger A's and making sure they're in tune. Maybe it's just practicing the shifts. Whatever it is, take a moment and make sure that you break those things down. But if you're ready to move on, I'm going to play the entire A part and then I'll play the entire B part, and then we'll go ahead and high five and move on to William Tell. So this is the A part for Bach Musette. I'll be following along with violin A, which will be almost exactly the same as viola A, cello A, and string bass A. It'll be a slightly different sound, of course, because it's a little bit higher or a little bit lower based on the instrument that you're playing. So here's Bach Musette, the A part. Ready? 1, 2, ready, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and first ending, and 3, and repeat, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and second ending, 1, and 2, and lift your bow, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and first ending, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, 1, and 2, and repeat, measure 6, 1, and 2, and piano, 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, measure 12, and go, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and first ending, back to measure 12, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and second ending, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. That's the A part. Now what's really fun about this piece is that if you play this with somebody else and someone else plays the B part, you're going to get harmony in addition to the melody that we just played. So let's go ahead and do the B part for Bach Musette. Ready? Measure 1, first time forte. 1, 2, ready, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and first ending, repeat, and piano, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and second ending, 1, 2, and lift your bow, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and first ending, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and repeat, and ready piano, 1, and 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and second ending, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, lift your bow, measure 12, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and measure 12. Piano, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and second ending, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Put those parts together and you get yourself some nice harmony. So what you could do, learn the A part, but play with me while I'm playing the B part, or vice versa. Play the B part and play with me while I'm playing the A part. And you got a buddy right here on YouTube, whenever you want to practice. Now looking ahead to William Tell Overture, same idea. These are a combination of many, many skills. So William Tell Overture has a pickup. Remember, a pickup is whenever you have notes before the first full measure. Also, we have the instruction for LH, lower half of the bow. We also have accents and staccato dots throughout. So make sure your eyes are looking for all of those articulations, whether the notes are heavy, strong, short, or connected. We also have the Italian word simile, because it turns out they didn't want to write all those accents and staccatos throughout the entire piece. So you have to notice, like, oh, this music looks very familiar. Aha! They want to use the exact same articulation for this music, but they no longer want to write those articulations. So you have to put those in there mentally and realize that this is the same music, so it needs to sound the same. You also get in measure 2 the added bonus of a slurred staccato. You get to do double up bows with a stopped bow in between. Pretty exciting stuff. Just like we had in the Bach Musette, you have to deal with a first and a second ending. This is a bigger one. You're going to play measure 7, measure 8, and then go back to measure 1. In addition, in measure 7, you have a tricky rhythm. I'd like to start there. That's going to be on a high D, then you have a lift with an 8th rest and an up bow. So it would sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So you have to subdivide during that rest. Here it is again. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Tricky, because you might randomly go faster or randomly go slower, or maybe start a little bit too late or jump in a little bit too early. You have to make sure that you're counting your subdivisions so that you are even. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. That's measure 7 into the first ending, going back to the beginning. When you look at the second ending, you have another opportunity for a slurred staccato. Then you have this weird kind of double bow with dashed lines. You're not going to see that too much, but what they're trying to show you is that they've kind of come up with a pretty clever way to save some space. So the first time through, you just play the second ending all the way through into measure 10. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 10. But you'll notice that above that double bar, you have the word fine. And now if you go all the way to the end of William Tell, you'll see that it says DC al fine. Well, if you remember, we learned that DC or da capo means to go back to the beginning. And then you end where it says the word fine without taking the repeats that second time. So this is a roadmap. So we go measure 10, measure 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, measure 1. All the way back to the beginning of measure 1. Now we go to the second ending and fine. We finish there the second time through. We have other things that we get to worry about, which we almost always get to worry about. We have fourth finger E's for the violins and the violas. You get to think about a key signature. Everyone should look at the key signature and notice there's one sharp. Now on page 30, we learned what that means. That means that all the F's are F sharp, but all those C's, which we've been used to playing C sharp, are now C natural. Except for where? At the very end. That's right. Notice there's a sharp written in the measure 15 right before the DC, and you have to play a nice high C sharp, and they've probably put something in your part to remind you of where your finger should be placed. Violins and violas, a high second finger, cello's third finger, and basses, you have to think that it's a second finger C sharp after you've shifted up into third position. So that's the William Tell Overture. I'm going to play the A part, and then I'm going to play the B part. You can choose which one to play, and as you go through, I recommend a couple of things. You can either clap the rhythms, you can say the note names in rhythm, you can do some of the bowings. Whatever it is, I would suggest that you try and make it successful as quickly as possible, which means making it as simple as necessary so that you can be successful. There's no reason to try and keep up with me in this moment. I've been doing this for a long time. Wherever you're at is where you're at. So do a little bit of work and just keep trucking on along until you feel more confident with the skill, and then add more skills. Ready? Here is William Tell Overture, the A part. We're going to go under tempo. I know it says allegro, but I'm just going to help you practice slowly. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. Piano. 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and forte. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 beginning. 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 up, up. 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4 and down, up, up. Piano. 1, 2, 3, 4 down, up. Forte. 1 and 2 and 3. Second ending. Piano. Measure 10. 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and down, up, up. 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Beginning and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, up, up. Piano. 1 3, second ending, all done. Nice job. Here's the B part. Please remember, no one's expecting you to play the entire A part and then the entire B part. If this is your first time doing this song, you want to make sure that you work on individual parts that might have been confusing. Utilize this track over and over and over again until you're clapping the correct rhythms, saying the correct note names, doing the correct bowings, and then slowly work to putting all those things together. But if you're ready to hear the B part, here it is. You'll notice that most of the rhythms are the same, but not all. You'll also notice that a lot of the notes are lower than the A part, which is usually very normal. Some of this is not true for some of the lower instruments because they're trying to manage playing all the same notes. And since we don't all exactly have the same strings, they've placed different people in different ranges. So the normal rule is typically those second parts are a little bit lower, but for this particular book and this particular piece, that's not always consistent. Here comes the B part. Ready? 1, 2, and 3. 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. Piano. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Up, forte. 2. Lift. First ending. Repeat. 4 and 1 and 3. Measure 2. Up. 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and down. Up. 4 and 1, 2 and 3. 4 and 1, 2 and forte. 1 and 2 and second ending. 1 and 2 piano. Measure 10. 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Repeat. Measure 1. 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. Second ending, and we're done. Now, what you might have noticed, if you're a cellist or a bassist, your B part was very different than the violin or the viola part. So this is a bonus round. We're all going to play the B part again, but this time I'm going to play the cello bass part, which is different. You ready? Here is the B part, but this time I'll be playing the cello bass part. You'll notice it starts with a rest, so it'll be strange for the people playing the violin part and the viola part to fit in because they'll be expecting very different music. Here we go. 1, 2, measure 1. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1. Up, piano. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, and a 1. Repeat. 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3, and a 1, 2, 3, and second ending, and measure 10, measure 3, 4, 11, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, back to the beginning, and 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3 and 4 and second ending done. And there you go. Page 31. No new individual skills, just a combination of all the skills that you've learned thus far all the way up until this page. Nice job. Remember, take your time. Do small parts of the music and make sure you understand them before you try and add all the other elements. you'll be less frustrated and you'll actually learn it faster. So thanks for practicing, and remember, if you do practice every day, by the end of the year, you'll be taller.